Hi everybody, my name is Angie. Welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be showing you how to make the Divina tote or handbag. This pattern comes in two different sizes. So this is the handbag size, and then there is a larger tote size. So this is a pretty good size on its own, and then the tote is that much bigger. So this is kind of the size that we're looking at here. And it is the back. You can, make the front and the back the same if you want, but the back is just a nice, panel with an accent. And then the front has these two zipper pockets. You have the option of making it just one huge zipper pocket if you'd like, but the pattern is written to have two zipper pockets. And I'm recording with my phone, so I can't show you my phone, but I've made one of these before and it does fit my phone. It's a little bit of a snug fit, but it does fit. I have an iPhone 11, something like that, old one. But yeah, so that is the exterior. The lining has a recessed zipper on it. And then the lining has a very large zipper pocket and some slip pockets over here. So it is kind of basic but like awesome bag, and it has you work on some corners, which as you can tell I need some work on that, but yeah, it's just a great little bag. I made another one of these earlier in the year, and I've been using it for months and I absolutely love it. It's the perfect size if you like a little bit of a bigger bag. Yeah, the cutting and interfacing kind of takes about as long as the actual sewing does. So, just prepare yourself for that. Turn on a movie or TV show while you're doing it. I like to listen to podcasts. And yeah, come and sew along with me this bag. You will see, if you pay attention, I don't know, maybe you wouldn't notice, wardrobe changes throughout. It's not necessarily a multi-day bag that requires multiple days to sew. I did make this the first time that I made it all in one sitting, and I mean, it did take a good chunk of the day because it was the first time that I made it, but it's the week of Thanksgiving. I didn't have that much time to sit down and sew all at one sitting, so I did, an hour here, an hour there. But yeah, so came together over the course of the last week, and I got done before Thanksgiving, so that's all I'm worried about. So yeah, come along and sew along with me. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I already went ahead and basted my foam onto the bottom gusset piece and I think these are called the side gusset pieces, but all of the gusset pieces I went ahead and fused, base stitches, man, I can't talk. I went ahead and base stitched the foam onto those pieces. And then I also went ahead and sewed up the strap, which those are all kind of basic, so I didn't record any of that. So I already have the straps done. So now we're going to go ahead and attach the strap. So we need our top, what's this called? The exterior front top panel. And what we're going to do is take one of our straps, and I have the center marked right here, and we're going to go ahead and lay the strap so that it is 3 1/4 inches from that center mark. So this is just put it flush with that. So I'm going to go ahead and just clip that in place. I'm going to do 2 clips just for extra security. And then we're going to do another 3 1/4. Okay. And then we're just going to go ahead and stitch that down. And what we're going to do is sew up 1 1/2 inches. Or no, I'm sorry. We're going to sew 1 1/2 inches down from the top. So that's how far up we're going to go. So I just need to, like, I don't have anything that's erasable. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of sew, and I'll use this as a guide next to it so that I can know when I need to stop. So I'm just gonna start sewing, and then just kind of hold this here. And when I get to, all right, so I'm at 1.5 inches from the top. I'm gonna shift, cut across, cut over to my stitching line there, and then work my way back down, following the stitching line again. And then you can do a second row of stitching 1/8 of an inch off of that. I think I am just gonna go ahead and maybe put a couple of rivets in there and call it a day. All right, and that might be kind of hard to see because it's all black, but I went ahead and did a box stitch here and another one here, except I didn't technically go across to the bottom, but whatever. All right, and now we need our top accent panel. This is the exterior front middle panel. So we're gonna go ahead and take this piece and we're just going to align it here. And then we'll go ahead and sew that on at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I am going to go ahead and back stitch a couple times over the straps, just for a little extra security on those. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and fold that back and top stitch on the accent panel here. So that gives us that top piece. And it says that this is where you can go ahead and rivet through for your straps, but I'm actually going to hold off because I'm also not putting my foam interfacing on just yet. I saw in another video somebody else making this who waited until the very end when the entire back panel was all put together to put the foam on. And I just kind of liked it that way because when you sew through foam, it like creates a weak point in the foam, and then it will fold, like it's more easily folded on that spot. So, and I feel like it kind of also keeps the foam out of more of the seam allowances, doing it that way with just one big piece of foam. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. You could definitely go ahead and put your foam on here if you already have it cut out. You know, by all means, go ahead and do it now as the pattern says. So you would just go ahead and baste your foam on. Make sure to pull your handles out of the way so you're not sewing through it like that. But you would just go ahead and baste your foam on just right around, all the way around. Like I said, I'm going to skip that part. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and just do the back piece on this one just to have it done. So I'm going to go ahead and take my exterior back panel, whatever it's called, and just lay that right sides together with that vinyl accent, or with the, you know, center accent piece. grab the right piece? I didn't label these. That's right. No, I didn't. So it should be, so you have two pieces that are going to look pretty similar, potentially, if you use the same fabric. So you want the one, that is bigger. So we're doing the back panel, so you want the one that's bigger. All right, and then we'll go ahead and just sew that again at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Fold that back. Okay, and it looks like we top stitch on the accent piece again. We're gonna fold the seam, so on the back, the seams are gonna be kind of folded in and almost like touching. So we're gonna top stitch on that accent piece again. So our back panel is done, so we can go ahead and set this aside, and then we'll get started on the front panel. And for the front panel, we're gonna do the exact same steps as we did to this top portion. So 3 1/4 inches in from the center, we'll put our straps in. 1 1/2 inches down from the top is where we'll stop our stitching. And then we'll attach our accent piece again. All right, so now we can go ahead and move on to our zippers, like the front zipper pockets. So what we're gonna do is take one of our zipper tabs. So I'm using vinyl for this, so I'm actually only gonna use one piece. In the pattern, it says to use 2, but it's just gonna be kind of difficult to do because you have to like press it, and it's just not gonna work with vinyl. So I'm just gonna use one. I did it on the last bag that I made like this, and just using one piece of vinyl worked out perfectly fine. So what I'm gonna do is make sure that you are sewing this onto the like closed side. So when the zipper pulls over here, it's closed. And I'm just gonna go ahead and lay this down over top of my zipper and sew that on at 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and fold that back and then top stitch. All right, and then you want to go ahead and sew it on to the other piece. And again, you want your zippers to be going like in towards the center. So we're going to go ahead and just lay it on like that and sew at 3/8 inch seam allowance again. And then we'll do the same thing, fold that back and top stitch. Okay, so there we go. We have it all sewn together. So now our zippers are zipping closed towards each other. And I have my zipper cut kind of long, so I am going to have to trim that up. But what we're going to do is I am just going to go ahead and fold this little piece in half. Normally I do a little notch, but I'm just going to fold it in half and just do a tiny little snip in the center. Okay, and then I'm also going to snip the center of the bottom panel. So that I can go ahead and align those two. I cut my zipper way too long. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and stitch that on. I'm just going to baste it at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we're going to take our big ol' front zipper pocket lining piece, so that's the big square, and center that. Go ahead and clip that in place. And actually, I still have my zipper tails on, so I'm just going to pull my zipper pulls completely out of the way so I don't have to mess with them. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and get that sewn on at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Stitching over the thicker spots there. Just make sure I don't have any skip stitches. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and fold that back. You can press it with your iron if you'd like, and we're just going to go ahead and top stitch. So I'm just kind of giving it a tug here and there just to make sure that it's, you know, staying out of the way, and I am top stitching it where I want to. I don't really want to press it with the iron because of the vinyl piece. I just don't want to risk it. All right, I'm gonna push those in. And then we're gonna fold up the lining, or the pocket lining piece, so that it matches up with the top of the zipper in the back now. Clip that in place, and then baste that. Okay, this is not a new wardrobe. I just got cold and it's later in the evening now, so. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and separate this. You can leave it open so that these are, or this is one big pocket here and you just have two different zippers to the pocket, but I'm going to go ahead and separate it. So I have two separate pockets here. And they are big enough that your phone can fit in, or at least my phone can. I have a iPhone 11 or something. So if you have chalk or an erasable pen or something like that that you are comfortable using on this and drawing, by all means do that. What we're going to do is draw two parallel lines. I'm basically just going to follow, like start at my top stitching that I did on the little zipper tab here. I'm just going to start like on the black part here and just come on down and then do the same over on this side. So they'll be about a 1/2 inch apart, and just follow those down. And I am really just going to kind of eyeball it because I don't really have anything that I can use to draw on it. But what I am going to do is fold it in half and mark the center so that at least I have that I can like kind of you know, aim towards, that I'm going to try and, you know, go towards that a little bit. And there's my other clips. I am going to go ahead, these are a bit longer, so I think they'll, yeah, they just barely reach behind here, and that's just holding the edge of the pocket down just so that it doesn't flap up and get all weird. All right, so I'm just gonna start right here, right in line with my top stitching of the zipper tab here. Back stitch a couple times, and I am just doing my best to draw to sew in a straight line, heading down towards this center mark here. And I'm going to go all the way down, but I did go ahead and back stitch over the bottom of the pocket there. All right, and you probably can't see that on here, but it's a pretty straight line. I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll do the same thing over on the other side. It's black thread on black canvas, so my back stitching on it is not showing. But if you're not comfortable, you know, back stitching over the edge of the pocket down here, then, you know, you don't have to do that. It's just, it gives it a little extra security there, so. All right, and again, it's probably hard to see, but I have two lines drawn down there. So now this is one pocket and this is its own pocket. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and just along the sides here, I am gonna baste the edge of the zipper. No, that's the wrong word. The edge of the pocket down, and just attach it to the exterior. I'm not gonna go like all the way down because the pocket stops right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sew to there and then sew up to there at like an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance just to hold all the layers together. And I'm also gonna sew through the end of the zipper over here because I didn't do that before. And that'll keep my zipper pull from flying off. Okay, there's one side. Baste it on, and then we'll do the same over here. All right, so that stops the zipper from flying off. And now I'm going to go ahead and not use those because I'm going to trim my zipper up. So I'm just going to trim off the other, or the little corner of the zipper pocket, and then trim off my zipper. All right, so now we can go ahead and attach the top part of it. So we're just going to go ahead and align the edges of that accent piece with the top edge of that zipper. Okay, coming up to my zipper, so I'm going to stop and with my needle down, pull my zipper out of the way. Sometimes it's a fight. I don't have the greatest clearance on this machine. Now we're just going to go ahead and fold that back and top stitch on that accent piece again. All right, so now we have both exterior pieces done, the front and the back at least. So I went ahead and just rough cut at this point the foam that covers the entire thing. So I didn't do exact, you know, you can see it's sticking out over the edges there, but that's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and on both pieces, clip it in place, and we're going to fold back the straps because we don't want to clip those into it, and we're just going to go ahead and base stitch the foam onto the exterior pieces, and we'll just do that at a 1/4 inch, or I'm sorry, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. All right, so for both pieces, I'm not going off of the edge of the foam. I'm kind of just using the edge of my presser foot and lining that up with the edge of my exterior fabric, and that's how I'm gauging the 1/8 of an inch. Ooh, don't sew through those. And up here, I'm going to go ahead and fold back the straps again so that I'm not sewing through those. There we go. It is all basted on. For the one piece, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same to the other. Okay, and now that it's basted on, I'm just going to go ahead and trim back the foam so that it is flush with the fabric. All right, now the pattern at this point skips ahead to the lining, but I feel like we've already come so far with the exterior. I want to keep going with it, so that's what I'm going to do. So first thing that I need to do, actually, before I move on to the gusset, is I want to throw some rivets on here. And doing so will also kind of hold this in place because I didn't use fusible, so it kind of holds it in place in the middle of it there with the foam. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw a couple rivets on each of these. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't have enough for 2 on each. I have enough for 1 on each, so that's what I'm gonna do. I think that looks good. All right, so I got those riveted on, and now I'm gonna start on, I'm kind of setting these aside, but I'm gonna start on the exterior. And, I'm sorry, I'm gonna start on the gusset. And I kind of forgot to put my purse feet on there, so guess I won't be doing that, but that's okay. So we just need to find the center of this on both sides. So I like to just do a little notch out of it, which will be well within the seam allowance, but it's easy for me to spot. So the bottom gusset exterior piece, we're going to go ahead and take one of the side pieces and lay those right sides together. And we'll go ahead and sew that at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and open this up and top stitch on this side. We're going to top stitch on the bottom piece, which that is a whole heck of a lot of foam on here. So I am going to go ahead and trim back my foam. So I have my basting stitches here that I'm kind of slicing through. You can use a seam ripper, but it's just going to make for a very, very bulky seam with that foam in there. So I am just trimming that out of it on both sides. All right, so now when we top stitch on this, we're only going through really 1 layer of foam here and then the 3 layers of vinyl, as opposed to 3 layers of vinyl, 3 layers of foam. And then we'll do the same thing, dropping everything. Do the same thing on the other side. So that at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. seam. I feel like I did a better job with it using my scissors and the seam ripper. Seam ripper just keeps poking into the foam and getting stuck. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and top stitch again over that bottom gusset side. Okay, so that's what we're looking like. So now we have the center cut. So what we need to do is cut the center on one of the exterior pieces. So we'll just line up all of the edges. Find the center over here. Don't cut your finger. Okay. And then we're just gonna line up the center mark here with the center mark that we just snipped and lay them right sides together. And we just need to clip all the way up and around. So in theory, it should line up correctly up top. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, when you were cutting out your pieces, maybe you cut a little wide or something, and that's fine. But I'm gonna try and kind of work my way down, hoping that it fits. I am throwing clips everywhere, jeez. And we just kind of do our best to make sure it all lines up. You kind of have to squish a little. Around the curves here especially, you definitely want to go pretty heavy on the clips because things shift very easily. Okay. I'll do the same up over here. Line up the edges. I have seen some people on curves like this have success with stapling the seams in place so you don't have to worry about your clips shifting. So like just right in the seam here at like 1/8 of an inch in, you know, so it's going to be well within the seam allowance. You're just going to trim it off anyways. Just go and throw some staples on there. I don't have a stapler, otherwise I probably would do that just to give it a try. I'm not the greatest on curves, so hopefully this works out. We'll see. All right, so now we're just gonna go ahead and go slow and work our way around. Okay, and we're gonna go at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Pulling my clips out too soon, out of habit. Okay, this foot is sticking a decent amount to the foam, so I'm going to switch over to my Teflon foot. See if that helps. Oh, that helps a ton. Okay. Alright, so we're coming up to the curve. So just as we're going, we're kind of shifting the gusset piece around to just try our best to make sure that it is laying flat. And just go very slow around those curves. Sorry, this isn't the best angle. I'll try and get a better angle from over here next on the other side. All right, hopefully that's a little better, and hopefully my head doesn't get in the way. That's that thick seam at the gusset, so I'm just back stitching over it because it's thick, and I don't know if I'm going to have skip stitches on that or not. With the foam in the seam there, it's kind of hard to tell if there's puckers or not, so we'll see how this turns out. All right, so actually it's not looking too bad. There's, I mean, a slight amount of puckering on it, but I think once I turn it right side out, I think it won't be too bad. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's just... too bad. It ain't perfect, but not bad either. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim down my seam allowance on this now. So you'll trim it down to about 1/4 inch. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and do the same with the other exterior piece, which I already have the center of that one marked from the pocket. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take that center mark and line that up. And then it can be a little bit more finicky because you can't manipulate it quite as much as you could before, but you just want to get all of this clipped together. All right, and let's see. I'm going to do it with the gusset side up as opposed to down like that where I would have to like smash it. Yeah, so I'm going to start it like this. Ooh, let me change the camera. And we're going to sew that again at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now this side does have a couple more bulky spots because of that zipper. So we do have to sew over that. And basically I'm not removing a clip until my presser foot is like on that clip. And I'm just taking a couple stitches and then resituating and flattening it all out. So I'm going to go ahead and trim down the seam allowance again on this side. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll get this turned right side out and just make sure that everything looks okay. All right, so there is our exterior all completed. So now we can go ahead and set this piece aside. I like to set it here as motivation. When this bag is taking a while and I'm screwing up, this is what it's gonna look like when it's all done. I just need to put a lining in it. No, I can't be done now. So let's move on to the lining. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and take our two slip pocket pieces and we're just gonna go ahead and lay those right sides together. See these ones that didn't cut perfectly? One of them is bigger than the other. That's fine. Okay, and then we're just gonna go ahead and sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and flip it. And we can give it a press with our iron to make it all stay nicely. Or you can go ahead and just go straight into top stitching. I don't feel like heating up my iron right now, so I'm just going straight into top stitching. And you're going to do 1/8 of an inch from the top. This is what happens when I don't feel like getting my iron out, then it doesn't cooperate. Probably save time to just get the iron out. So just as I'm going, because I didn't press it, I'm just kind of rolling the seam with my fingers. Got up to the point where I've rolled it, so now I need to do it again. Sounds like my bobbin's getting low. All right, so we got that top stitched. So now we just need to, this is gonna shift on me, I know it. I'm just gonna clip this and then we're gonna base stitch all the way around at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, and then we'll go ahead and lay this down onto one of our lining pieces. aligning the bottoms. And I'm gonna go ahead and clip this again and baste it again. If I went straight to basting it onto this, the two pieces together, it definitely would have shifted on me. So again, just another 1/8 inch basting. Ooh, I went a little wide on that. Bobbin. Okay. I knew it was coming. I called it. Oh, and I don't have another one ready. Boo. All right, and so now what we're gonna do is divide up the pockets. So you can divide them however you want. What the pattern recommends doing, I don't have a marker to like draw it, but I do have this little thing that is supposed to like help crease it for quilting lines. So we're gonna try that. And what it says to do is mark the center. So I am gonna try my best to mark a good crease. There we go. I can see that crease. And then we're gonna mark 1 inch over on either side of that. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and sew on each of those 3 lines. So that'll get us 2 nice size pockets plus 2 little pockets to stick a pen or a pencil in. All right, and then we'll give it a little test here. Perfect space for pencil. Fits a Sharpie. It is kind of deep though, so if you have a shorter pencil, it might get stuck. So if you're worried about that, like this one, yeah, that kind of got stuck. So these are kind of deep. So what you could always do is like put another couple of stitches up here to stop it so that it can only go that deep. I'm not too worried about it. If you have like all of my pencils have like the little things on them, so I will just do my best to make sure that they don't get stuck like that. But mistakes happen and I don't want it to get stuck. I think I am going to do just a couple lines on there. Like I said, just so that the pencils don't end up getting stuck in there, because that would be real annoying. So I think I had it there. Like I don't want it to go any further than like here. So we're doing there. This would probably be better if I had coordinating thread, but I don't have any purple, so we're going with this. And I'm just starting at my stitching for this pocket over here. And I am stopping at this pocket over here. All right, and then this way, my pencil gets shoved down in there. It can't go any further. Same with this one. Let's see how this one goes. Yeah, this one, I mean, it does kind of get stuck there still because it's a Sharpie and it's small, but I feel like it'll be a little bit easier to get out of there, so. All right, so that is one side done. So now we need to work on the zipper pocket. So what we're gonna need is one of our zipper pocket pieces. And actually, before I fold it in half, what we're gonna do is draw a box on here that is 1 inch down from the top and runs 1 inch from either side. Okay, and then depending on the zipper that you're using is going to determine how big of a box you're going to draw. I am using number 5 zipper. I think the same would be true if you were using 4.5 because it's close enough. You would want to draw another line 1/2 inch down from the line we just drew. If you are using number 3 zipper, like the smaller all-purpose zipper, then you would want to do your second line 3/8 inch down. So I have my box that's 1/2 inch wide, or 1/2 inch tall, I guess. And then it is 1 inch from either side and 1 inch from the top. So now I'm going to take this piece and find the center. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip a notch where the center is. And then to our remaining lining piece, we're going to do the same thing. Snip a notch in the center, or you can mark it with a pin, whatever you like to do. And I should add, this way that I am doing is going to look a little bit different than what the pattern has. So in the pattern, they have you draw the box on here and then pin this back here, but stitch on this side. And I just, honestly, I find that way confusing. There's a lot of people that do it that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. That is how I was originally taught how to do zippers when I first started learning how to sew. And honestly, I felt like it complicated zippers a little bit too much. When I started doing it this way, drawing it on here and then aligning it, all of a sudden it all made more sense to me. So this is just how I do it. We get the same result. The zipper is going to be in the exact same spot. So if the way that the pattern makes more sense to you, then do it that way. This way makes more sense to me, so this is the way that I do it. So what we're going to do is align this piece 1.5 inches down from the top, and we're making sure to line up the center marks. And since we drew this down, ultimately the box that we sew is going to be 2.5 inches from the top. So just like what the pattern says, it's just we're sewing it from this side as opposed to sewing it from the other side. Okay, and then you can pin it in place if you'd like. I'm just gonna hold it and hope that works. It usually does for me, but. So we're just gonna go ahead and carefully take this up over here. And we're just gonna sew right along, or right on that line that we drew, or the box that we drew. All right, so we got our box stitched down. So now we're going to grab our scissors. I have these little like precision snips, so they just have a nice little point to them without being like flimsy, so that I can get pretty close into the corners. So you can take a seam ripper if you're not comfortable doing this. What you can do is take a seam ripper and just poke it through and kind of give it, like cut a little hole through there just to get yourself started. But what I'm gonna do is just fold it in half and just do a little snip like that, just enough to get my scissors inside. And then I'm just gonna cut right along the center. And I'm gonna stop when I'm just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm just eyeballing it and stopping maybe 3/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch, something like that, from the corner or from the end of the box here. And then when I do that, I'm gonna snip into the corner as close as I can get to my stitches without cutting through them. And then go back and do the same thing. Okay, so I have that cut with these little triangles kind of cut out. And then we're going to take our pocket and flip it through so that our pocket piece and our main lining are now wrong sides together. And we'll just take this over to the iron and give it a press to get it all lay nice and flat. All right, so we got it all pressed with our iron so that it lays all nice and flat. And what we're gonna do is take our zipper now, and we're just gonna center it so that the coils or the teeth or whatever you wanna call it go right down the center of our pocket, just like that. If you have a machine that can handle double-sided tape, this is a great time to use it. So you just put a little strip of tape on either side to hold it in place. Or if you have like a non-stick needle, that helps tremendously when you are using double-sided tape. I usually have pretty good luck with just kind of holding it in place. But you can also pin it too. If you are using just regular cotton fabric for your lining, you can go ahead and just pin right along the edge here. But like I said, I usually have pretty good luck with just holding it in place. So that is what I am gonna do. Except I cut my zipper long enough, I cut it real long, that I'm gonna go ahead and pull it down this way, so that my pole is out of the way and I don't have to mess with it while I'm sewing the pocket on. And then I just need to make sure that before I sew over on this side that I pull the zipper pull back in. All right, so I basically just kind of hold it like this and then get it on under my machine. Start sewing. And I just kind of position, I'm not trying to like tug it or anything like that, but just kind of make sure it's centered the whole way. Okay, and then this is kind of flapping all over the place, so I just want to kind of readjust it and hold it in place here. All right, now I need to get my zipper pulled back in here before I, get to the end here. So I'm just going to go and take it and push it right back through. and just hold the teeth closed with my fingers. And I'll trim my starting thread. Alright, so we'll take our other zipper pocket piece and lay that so that the two pocket pieces are right sides together. And we'll throw a few clips on there. Actually, I'm going to do the clips the other way. And then we're only going to sew on the sides and up top here. We're going to leave the pocket lining open so that we can turn the bag through there in a later step when the bag is almost done. One thing that I like to do is take the pocket piece and fold it up by like a 1/2 inch. Just as long as it's the same on both sides, it doesn't really matter. And then sew along that, and what that does is just makes it easier to turn the pocket through, or I'm sorry, to sew the pocket closed when the time comes for that. So it just makes things a little bit easier. Try it, you'll see. Okay, and then I like to sew it from the front like this, because I can very clearly pull my pocket or pull the lining piece out of the way and know for certain that I am not sewing through it on accident. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and sew that at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Back stitch down there. I like to back stitch over the zipper, just to give it a little extra hold. Not that I think that anything would happen, but and then this part over here, I don't necessarily care about trimming up because it's in the inside of a bag. It's not like bunching up with anything. So it doesn't necessarily add any bulk. You can definitely trim it down if you want, but I don't find it necessary. But what I am going to do is over on the corner here, I'm just going to go ahead and trim that down. Just because that piece here, like the bottom of this, we do have to turn right side out in order to like sew up the bottom. So it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then from here, we can go ahead and push in those corners. We can give this a press with our iron just to kind of get it to hold. But basically flipping it up and stitching it the way that we did, that is what it accomplishes. It gives us a nice seam here that we're going to be able to sew through, and it just makes it a little bit easier in the last step when we need to sew the pocket closed. Okay, so we got that pressed now, and now we have our zipper pocket complete. Both of those are, so now we can work on the rest of the lining. All right, so we're gonna set these two pieces aside for a minute, and we're gonna grab our zipper and our two zipper, what are these called? These are the main zipper closure panels. So there should be 4 pieces that maybe you did them, you know, 2 in the exterior and 2 in the lining. I just did them all in the lining fabric. So first thing that we're gonna do is take our zipper, and we need to fold the edges in and baste that close. So I am going to mark this. Let me get a pen out. I'm just gonna take a little pen here and I'm lining up one of the lines on my ruler with like the center of the zipper teeth here, just so that I get like a good straight line. And just over on the corners here, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just doing a couple little tick marks. That way I know that I am, you know, folding it over at the same spot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this off already. Pinch it right on that spot that I marked. So pinch it so that the point here is right at the spot that I drew, and then fold it up, which is hard to see, but now that pinched piece here is now flush with the top. Okay, so I pinch it, and when I do that, it kind of folds this piece back, and then I'm just folding it up so that it's now flush with this and parallel to that. Okay, and I let it go, so I have to do it again, but I'm also going to get my little stiletto out. So one more time, I'm going to pinch and fold it up, and then use my stiletto to hold it in place until I can get it under the foot. There we go. And then it kind of folded it in place just like that. And now it is holding it there. And now we need to do the same over on the other side. All right, and when you do that, now the zipper is not going to fly off, and it is they're right in line with each other. So we have a nice even zipper. We can go ahead and cut these ends off. So I'm just going to cut it, just like that on both sides. And then melt it again with the lighter. Here we go. All right, so I went ahead and put this on the end, just a little clip on the end of my zipper, just kind of as a mental reminder to myself to be careful and not let the zipper fly off. But what we're gonna do is take one of our pieces, or take 2 of them, I guess, and might as well get it both done at the same time, and fold it over on the wrong side, and take one of the ends and fold it over 3/8 of an inch and give it a press with the iron, and we'll do it on both pieces. All right, now normally I am all about just eyeballing things when we're like folding in raw edges, but in this case we do want to be pretty precise on it and make sure that these are the same, like we're folding it under the same, because these 2 pieces are going to be butted up against each other, or like behind each other, I guess. And if they don't align, then they're going to be offset a bit, and it's just not going to look good. So you just want to make sure that you folded it over so that both pieces are now the same length. Okay. And we're gonna go ahead and set one of the pieces aside for a second. Take our zipper, and we are going to align our zipper 3/8 of an inch from the raw edge of the fabric over here. So this is the folded edge here. We're putting the opening of the zipper over on this side. Okay, and we'll go ahead and sew that in place then, or just baste it in place, I guess. Okay, then we're going to take our other piece and lay that down so that everything is aligning at the top here. And really you want to make sure that it's lining up on this seam over here. All right, and I'm gonna switch out to my zipper foot on this one. The pattern does say to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance along the zipper, which is kind of difficult to do unless you have a zipper foot. If you don't have a zipper foot, I'm sure it would be fine to do a little bit of a wider seam allowance because you can't get quite as close to the zipper teeth, but okay. And then we're going to start over on this edge here. So our zipper is down along this side. Here is our raw edges. So we're going to start on this side up here, sew down, and then across. And it says to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So you're going to get right up onto those zipper teeth. Back stitching over because I tend to get skip stitches on like humps like the zipper teeth, so and then we're going to go ahead and trim down our seam allowances over here in the corner up by the zipper. But I'm not trimming down here because I'm using nylon zipper, and if I trim all of this, this is all zipper that I'm trimming, and that's going to make the zipper fray, so I'm not doing that. And then we'll just go ahead and poke this out. This corner is going to be a little bulky just because the end of the zipper is in there, and that's just how it's going to go, and that's fine. And we can take this over to the iron and get it to kind of press flat. All right, so I gave it a press with the iron, and just because it's got the zipper in there, it's still kind of trying to pop open. So I'm just going to throw a few clips on it just to hold things in place. And then we're going to go ahead and top stitch around all edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we'll just go ahead and baste this close again at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So basically just 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. So that is what we're looking like so far. So we have our, basically this is going to be our zipper panel here. This is going to be our big thread tail, which we can trim down later. But we now just need to go and do those same steps with the other side over here. All right, so there we go. All right, and it says in the pattern now to go ahead and put the end on the zipper, but honestly, I like to wait until it's all together so that I can decide how long I want the tail to be. So I'm gonna hold off on it, but I think I am just gonna go ahead and make it a little bit more secure for when I'm like turning the bag, so that I really don't accidentally have the edges fly off there or have the zipper pull fly off there. All right, so now we need to go ahead and attach it to the rest of the lining. So I am gonna go ahead and take my zipper panel, because I can see that the zippers are both going the same way. I'm gonna go ahead and align this, making sure, I'm gonna notate where the center seams are. Oh, I already snipped the center of this one. So I just need to snip the center of this one. And we're gonna go ahead and lay this. We need it to be right side up. So the zipper pull you want facing up. And we're just gonna align our center marks over here. Clip it. And then we're gonna sew with just a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to take one of our lining top pieces and we'll lay that right side down onto that spot that we just sewed and clip that in place. And then we're also going to go ahead and sew this one at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're going to sew it from the back so that we can make sure that we're coming in right where our first stitching was, like when we first got the panel attached to it, just to make sure that those stitches aren't going to be visible. And then we're going to go ahead and fold this up. You can give it a press if you'd like. And we're going to top stitch through this piece here. We're going to top stitch actually on the lining piece at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now we're going to go ahead and repeat those steps to get the zipper panel attached to the other side of the lining. So we're going to lay that out, and I'm just going to go ahead and align the edges over here. I lied, because one of the pieces is a little bit, I cut them just a little bit wider. They just don't line up perfectly, so. Oh, snipping the wrong center. Snip the center of the zipper panel. And then the center of the pocket, or the lining up here. I really can't speak today, jeez. Maybe it's an everyday thing. Whatever. Okay, and then yeah, okay. With the zipper facing up again, so we're going to see the wrong side of the zipper pocket that we just, like this whole panel piece. We're going to align the center marks and clip that. Sew that one on again. Okay, and then lay this piece right side down. Clip. And sew. And then press that up and top stitch on the top piece. All right, so this is what we're looking like. So we have their zipper pocket, and then we open it up and we see that. So if your zipper pull is not on the top right now, like holding it like this with the zipper pocket and the slip pocket down here, zipper pull on top, then you did it backwards, which I've done before, so don't feel bad. So you should not be seeing the back side of your zipper right now. And if so, seam ripper sucks, but better now than when the bag's all together. All right, so we got that part done. So now we need to attach or get our gusset together. So just like we did with the exterior, we're gonna do the same with the lining. So we have our gusset bottom piece and our gusset side piece that we're going to go ahead and align the sides. And then we'll go ahead and fold that open, and we're going to top stitch on the bottom piece. All right, so we got this big old piece now. So we need to find the center of our bottom piece here. So we're going to do that on both sides. So To do that, I am just aligning my seam over here, like I don't have to go all the way up. I'm just finding, like, matching up the seam here and using that to find the center. All right, and let's do the same thing with the lining pieces. Probably would have been easier to do it sooner, but for each of the lining pieces, we'll just fold that in half. And find the center mark. All right, and then just like we did with the exterior, it's just a little bit funkier with this because we have stuff in our way, but what I'm gonna do is open this up so that it's a little bit easier and we're kind of more like just dealing with one side at a time, you know? All right, so I'm just folding it up. I think that's going to be the easiest, up out of the way so that the zipper is out of my seam here and I have full access to the entire way around. And we'll start off by taking our bottom piece, our gusset piece, and aligning the center marks. And again, we're just going to work our way all the way around with all the clips. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get this sewed on. So what we're gonna do is start out at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And as we work our way down, we're gonna gradually start increasing our seam allowance. The pattern says to increase it to 3/4 of an inch. I'm just back stitching over the slip pocket here. But honestly, I find that just increasing it 1/8 of an inch, so to 5/8 inch, is enough to make the inside of the lining not so baggy. So I'm just increasing it to 5/8 inch. All right, and then working my way back up, I'm going to slowly start veering back over to the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this lining does have a few puckers in it, but it's the lining, so I don't really care that much. All right, so we got that side sewn on. So now we need to go ahead and let's make sure our zipper is not all spiraled up. Okay, it is not. So we're gonna tuck our zipper in, not to zip it up the entire way. Well, that doesn't really matter, but, and just go ahead and get the other side of the lining all connected to the gusset. Now, normally on bags, I would say to leave an opening in the lining as well as the zipper pocket so that you can turn it through a bigger hole in the lining and then just pull the lining through the zipper pocket. But honestly, this hole that we have here for the zipper is pretty massive and honestly bigger than what I would probably be able to comfortably do, like with the curves and everything on this, with the lining. So I'm just gonna leave it and turn it just through the zipper pocket. And yeah, just not worry about leaving an opening in the main lining. All right, and we're gonna do the same thing again. And again, I like to have the gusset side on top. I think that's what she recommends in the pattern too. I think she said it's easier, but. Starting out at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And as we go down, we are slowly working our way over to a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Working my way back over to the 1/2 inch, or I'm sorry, yeah, to the 1/2 inch. All right, and we can go around and just kind of take a look, see if there's anything that looks a little funky or that you think you want to redo. I feel like this looks all right to me. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and trim down our seam allowance. Just be very careful that you're just getting your seam allowance and not cutting through anything important like the rest of your bag. All right, we're getting there. All right, if you are doing a crossbody strap, now is the time that you'd want to add your connectors over on the side here. So basically you just take your little D-ring piece and match it up with the center over here and sew that on, matching up the raw edges, just basted on either side. I'm skipping that on this bag. So we're gonna bypass that. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it wrong side out again. Oh, I took a chunk out of my foam there. That's annoying. Okay, there we go. There we go. Forget. It just kind of cut or sliced right there. Okay. Shove our straps in here because we don't want those to get in our way. And then we're going to take our lining and turn that right side out. So the reason that I do that this way, having the lining go inside, is because the lining is going to go inside, and we sewed the lining a little bit smaller anyways so that it would fit inside here. And so if we try and put the exterior inside here, it's just it doesn't cooperate as much. So we're going to go ahead and insert that. Oh, but first, open up your zipper pocket. All right, so we're going to shove that in, and we are just going to go ahead and align all of the edges. So the first thing that I do is line up these gusset pieces. You can butterfly or nest the seams, whatever. Okay, and you can match up. I didn't snip exterior or the center of the exterior piece, but I'm just kind of giving it a tug, and it kind of just naturally lines up. And we're just going to clip the entire way around. All right, and we will be sewing the entire thing all the way around at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So whichever way is easiest for you, whether it's going on top like this or down like this, so that you're sewing from the foam side or you're sewing from the lining side, whichever. I'm gonna sew from the lining side on top. I feel like that's just going to be easier for me. Let's get a better view for you. All right, and now we need to trim down our seam allowance. It says to 1/4 of an inch. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and get it all turned through that opening that we left in the zipper. Just very careful. You can pull too hard and ruin your zipper at this stage, so just be very careful. If you are using purse feet, careful in this step because those can cut your hands when you're trying to push out the bottom. All right, and then I like to get everything top stitched before closing up the bottom, or before closing up like the opening there, just in case I screw something up real bad and gotta redo something and turn it right side out again. I feel like closing up the pocket at this point jinxes myself. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get the lining shoved in. Make sure it's sitting nicely in there. Especially when you're using vinyl on the sides here, it wants to pull the lining up. So it might seem like the lining is too small at first, but you just kind of have to mess with it a little bit. All right, and once it looks like you think it's all right, now we need to top stitch. So I am gonna go ahead and clip it. Not super necessary, you could just like roll it and straighten it out as you go, but whatever. And again, make sure that your handles are pulled back. You don't want to top stitch through them. I have seen some patterns where you do that. The first bag I ever made was actually like that, but we're not doing that on this one. All right, now one thing that I am gonna do, because this seam right here, because of the foam, like these seams here are pretty darn thick. Like I'm even having a hard time getting my clip onto it. So I am gonna go and get my little pliers that I use for, what are those things called? Key fobs, and just kind of try and clamp it a little bit, just to see if I can flatten that down and make it easier to top stitch. So I'm just using these here. If you don't have something like this and you just have regular pliers, those usually have like the like grippy teeth on them, which can damage this. So if you're gonna use those, cover it with a piece of fabric or something first, just so that when you're clamping it down, it's not tearing on the vinyl. So I'm just gonna do a little of that. And I think that actually did help quite a bit. So I'm just gonna go around and do that on all 4 of these. All right, and then lastly, I am switching to a top stitch needle and my Teflon foot, just because I'm going to be top stitching over that vinyl, and that vinyl does get kind of sticky. All right, let's pull up bobbin thread. Ooh, let's double check and make sure I got enough. That would be a terrible thing. Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, now this time I am gonna go ahead and do from the exterior like this, as opposed to seeing the lining and the lining being on top, just because I want to keep an eye on my top stitching. Yeah, I just want to look at the exterior while I'm doing it. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and top stitch this. Stop talking, jeez. Top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Dang. That's skipping. Where's my little doohickey thing? All right, we got the hump jumper. Let's see if that helps. Coming up the hill ain't the problem. It's coming back down. Make sure that zipper is tucked back in there. Don't sew over that. starting thread here. I'm going to give that a snip. All right, got the top stitch done. So the very last step is that pocket. So we just got to pull that pocket out. And since we folded that edge in before we stitched and then gave it a press with the iron, when we give it a tug, it naturally just folds where it needs to. So we can just pop a few clips on there. And then sew across and get it closed up. All right, get those corners poked in. Shove it into that pocket. All right, so the very last step then, we gotta go ahead and finish off our zipper. So what we're gonna do is we got our little zipper end and we have our little screw. So we're gonna take our zipper and fold it up. So we're just taking the like tape of it and folding it under like that. And then shoving it as far as it will go up into our little zipper end piece. Okay, and it's as far as it's going to go. So now I need to go ahead and take my tiny, minuscule little screw and try and screw that in. Screwdriver. Will this work? Yeah. There we go. Honestly, if you have like an eyeglasses screwdriver, that would probably be best. All right, and then we're just gonna give it a tug. I'm pulling pretty hard and that is not coming off, so we're good. All right, so we can go ahead and you can, you know, leave it out like that or just tuck it on in. And there we go, we are done. All right, so there is the Divina handbag. Why does this look, I need to push the bottom out. It looks all funky. Does it look better? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, so not too terribly difficult. This was the first, not this bag, but this pattern was the first recessed zipper that I ever did. And honestly, the pattern makes it so easy that, you know, it was no issue for me the first time that I tried it. And hopefully you feel the same about recessed zippers now. They are, they seem like they're going to be intimidating, but they're not that bad. And this bag has just so much organization and pockets and stuff in it. Like I said before, I use this as my like everyday, I use this bag as my everyday bag and I love it. And it holds plenty. And yeah, it's just a great bag. And the one that I made before, I did put purse feet on it, which I do think I prefer, but you know, whatever. But yeah, so if you found this tutorial helpful, if you sewed along with me and got something out of it, let me know down in the comments down below and give me a thumbs up. And make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for other videos. I'll see you next time. Bye.